Something. There is no Peace Corps. There is no Special Forces. There is no 50-mile hikes. There's no moon program. There's nothing to root for. What are we trying to do in this administration? Why does he want a second term? Would he tell us? What's he going to do in the second term? More of this? Is this it? Is this as good as it gets? Where are we going? We got to do something in the second term? He has yet to tell us. He has not said one thing about what he'd do in his second term. He never tells what he's going to do with reforming our health care systems, Medicare, Medicaid, how he's going to reform Social Security. Is he going to deal with long-term debt? How? Is he going to reform the tax system? How? Just tell us. Why we're in this fight with him. Just tell us, Commander, give us our orders and tell us where we're going. Give us the mission. And he hasn't done it. And I think it's the people around him. Too many people around him. Little kids with propellers on their heads. They're all virtual. Politics, this social networking, I get these emails, you probably get them. I'm tired of getting them. Stop giving them to me. I want to meet people. Their idea of running a campaign is a virtual universe of sending emails around to people. No, it's not. It's meetings with people. It's forging alliances. It's White House meetings and dinners parties that go on till midnight, and he should be sitting late at night now with senators and members of Congress and governors working together on how they're going to win this political fight that's coming. I don't have a sense that he's ever had a meeting. I hear stories that you will not believe. Not a single phone call since the last election. They don't call. He never calls. That's the message. Members of Congress, I keep asking, when did you hear from him last?
Silence.
He doesn't like their company.
You just
That's
offered
a fraud,
up,
by the way.
Flashback to 2004. Barack Obama had just won a landslide victory to become Illinois' next U.S. Senator. At the time, he ruled out running on a national ticket in 2008, suggesting back then he lacked experience.
So why have you ruled that out, running nationally?
You know, I am a believer in knowing what you're doing when you apply for a job. And I think that if I were to seriously consider running on a national ticket, I would essentially have to start now before having served a day in the Senate. Now, there's some people who might be comfortable doing that, but I'm not one of those people.
What do you think the most important thing is for Barack Obama? Obviously, you're here to talk about the anniversary for U.S.-China diplomatic relations, but if you had to say this is going to be the country or the conflict or the place that will define the Obama administration, what would it be?
I think his task will be to develop an overall strategy for America in this period when really a new world order can be created. It's a great opportunity. It isn't just a crisis.
This is going to be the country or the conflict or the place that will define the Obama administration. What would it be?
The president-elect is coming into office at a moment when there are upheavals in many parts of the world simultaneously. You have India, Pakistan, you have the jihadist movement. So he can't really say that it's one problem, that it's the most important one. But he can give a new impetus to American foreign policy, partly because the reception of him is so extraordinary around the world. I think his task will be to develop an overall strategy for America in this period when really a new world order can be created. It's a great opportunity. It isn't just a crisis.
I think what I'm interested in how we deal with the present and go for the future. And I think that, if I may say so, I think the Group of 20 meeting was very important because it brought out the realization that we're all in this together. And I think Gordon Brown did a remarkable job in pointing out that you have to have action, and the action needed to be taken very quickly. But, you know, politicians will debate, and they will debate, but I think that we have some very important principles if capitalism is going to continue for the benefit of all.
A lot of people are worried that, in fact, capitalism right now is being threatened. You've got the government in the United States owning 80% of AIG, owning Freddie and Fannie, in nationalizing those companies, and, of course, investing, taking stakes in the major banks. Is this something that you're concerned with?
Well, I think that you had to face up to the fact that you couldn't let these people collapse, and you've now got to realize that you've got to get the better system going, And here is one of my main thrusts. And I think regulation is important. What has happened in the past is that you haven't had the regulation supervised. You know, it's very easy to have regulation, but you've got to have the supervisors. Two things. One, they have to know what they're supervising and understand what they're supervising, and they have to have the chance to have action when they decide that so-and-so or an institution isn't behaving correctly.
The most interesting revelation given by the Rothschilds is that Queen Victoria was actually the illegitimate daughter of Nathaniel Rothschild. That means Rothschilds had managed to place family members at the head of the British, German and Russian empires by the time World War I started. Hitler was also a Rothschild who wanted to be crowned king of the world and who helped found Israel by chasing the Jews out of Europe. Their infiltration of the highest levels of world power continued in the post-war period. So, in the big picture of things, we are witnessing the collapse of the Rothschild attempt to crown themselves as monarchs of a world government with the capital in Jerusalem.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and welcome, Chairman Bernanke. I am very pleased to be here today as the ranking member, and in the midst of the great optimism of monetary policy and how the economy is doing, I still have some concerns. And of course, one of my long-term goals has always been to emphasize maintaining the integrity of the monetary unit rather than looking superficially at some of our statistics. But I also share the concern of the chairman of the committee of our responsibilities for oversight and your interest as well, Chairman Bernanke, on having the transparency that I think we all desire. Transparency in monetary policy is a goal we should all support. I've often wondered why Congress has so willingly given up this prerogative over monetary policy. Congress, in essence, has ceded total control of the value of our money to a secretive central bank. Congress created the Federal Reserve, yet it had no constitutional authority to do so. We forget that those powers not explicitly granted to the Congress by the Constitution are inherently denied to the Congress, and thus the authority to establish a central bank was never given. Of course, Jefferson and Hamilton had that debate early on, and the debate seemingly was settled in 1913. But transparency and oversight are something else, and they're worth considering. Congress, although not by law, essentially has given up all its oversight responsibilities over the Fed. There are no true audits. Congress knows nothing of the conversations, the plans, and the action taken in concert with other central banks. We get less and less information regarding the money supply each year, especially now that we don't even have access to M3 statistics. The role the Fed plays in the President's secretive working group on financial markets goes essentially unnoticed by Congress. The Federal Reserve shows no willingness to inform Congress voluntarily about how often the working group meets, what action it takes that affects the financial markets, or why it takes these actions. But all these actions directed by the Federal Reserve alter the purchasing power of our money.